They're not announcing it on Wall Street, but some of America's biggest companies are packing up and heading straight for Canada. Whether it's tax breaks, political shifts, or something deeper, the mainstream media isn't saying much. But we are. Stick around, because the companies on this list will surprise you. And the reasons behind their moves? Even more shocking. Number 6. Coca-Cola. Who would have thought that Coca-Cola, the king of American soda, would quietly turn its back on the US like a bad breakup? That iconic red and white brand, synonymous with summer, baseball, and backyard barbecues, is slowly crossing the northern border. There were no press releases. No farewell tour. Just like that, a packaging plant appears in Ontario, and aluminum supply contracts get signed in Quebec. Why? Because tariffs hit US aluminum imports hard, driving up Coca-Cola's can production costs. Faced with either bleeding billions or finding a workaround, the company chose the latter: move operations to Canada, quietly. And it's not just about aluminum cans. Jobs are disappearing from American plants, prices are climbing for US consumers, and your all-American Coke may soon bear a "Made in Canada" label. If Coca-Cola, the very symbol of Americana, is leaving in search of better deals, who might be next? Ford? McDonald's? Maybe even Katy Perry? Stay tuned. This rabbit hole goes way deeper than just sugar and soda. Number 5. General Motors. Remember when General Motors was untouchable? It was the pride of Detroit, the powerhouse behind the American dream. Your grandfather might have built Buicks, your uncle probably drove a Chevy, and every Thanksgiving, someone at the table was cashing a GM paycheck. But by 2025, that legacy is fading, quietly peeling away like rust on an old truck. And no one's raising the alarm. You'd expect a manufacturing icon like GM to fight for its homeland. But here's the truth: there's no fight. They're relocating, strategically, silently, to Canada. While Americans wonder why their new cars cost $7,000 more than they did 3 years ago, GM is already playing chess in Ontario. This isn't some sudden exit. It's a slow retreat, death by 1,000 moves. Step 1. Parts. GM doesn't build vehicles in isolation, it relies on thousands of parts from hundreds of suppliers. But when US tariffs on steel and aluminum hit like a bat to the ribs, prices for those parts tripled. By mid-2025, American tariffs on Canadian imports reached 50%. GM's supply chain became a money pit. Unlike soda, you can't mark up a $40,000 SUV and hope for an impulse buy. So, when US demand started to stall, GM quietly said, "Let's try Canada." The first major clue. A surge in Canadian investment. Over $2.6 billion poured into GM Canada since 2020. On paper, it might sound innocent. But that includes a massive electric vehicle initiative in St. Catharines, Ontario, where they're building EV drive units. In Bécancour, Quebec, GM is investing over $1 billion into a cathode active material plant with POSCO. This isn't diversification. It's planning an escape route. Back in the US, plants are slowing down, or shutting down altogether. The CAMI assembly plant in Ingersoll laid off 1,200 workers in April 2025 just to retool for next-gen models. Translation? Shut down now, maybe hire later. But that call rarely comes. And while US workers are sent home, GM is hiring engineers in Ontario and Quebec by the hundreds. Many of these jobs are focused on smart manufacturing, EV software, and automation. So where's GM's next innovation hub? It's not Michigan. Don't be misled by PR statements and CEO interviews. On paper, GM still claims commitment to American jobs. But every dollar invested in Canada is one less being used to build the future in Flint or Detroit. When you chip away at that foundation, plant by plant, contract by contract, entire communities suffer. Towns shrink. Grocery stores close. Schools lose students. Property values crash. Hope disappears like fog on a windshield. Here's the truth: this isn't politics. It's logistics. It's about survival. If making a car in Canada is faster, cheaper, and avoids US bureaucracy, why stay? Sure, GM's logo might still shine at dealerships in Texas or Ohio. But the brains, the batteries, the technology? Increasingly, it's being developed in Canada. It's not betrayal. It's business. But if even GM, the godfather of American auto, is slipping across the border, brace yourself. Smaller companies won't walk, they'll run. And your next, American-made, car? It might roll off a Canadian assembly line. When that happens, America doesn't just lose a company. It loses a symbol. Surprised? We're just getting started. Hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe. Because next, we're looking at another giant quietly exiting stage left. Number 4. Alcoa Corporation. It's happening, quietly, ton by ton. Aluminum. You don't think about it, but it's everywhere. In soda cans, car bodies, airplanes, fridges, and skyscrapers. And now, more and more of it is stamped, made in Canada. The company behind it? Alcoa, a cornerstone of American industry for over a century, now fading into the background with almost no attention. This isn't just about cost-cutting or moving a single plant. It's a slow, calculated retreat. In 2025, Alcoa faced a brutal trifecta: skyrocketing electricity costs, failing U.S. smelters, and a 25% tariff on imported aluminum, imposed by the U.S. itself. It's backwards, right? Welcome to the current industrial circus. So, what did Alcoa do? It headed north, quietly. There was no big press release. No dramatic announcement. Just one port in Houston slowing down while another fires up in Montreal. Fewer shifts in Texas. More trucks on Quebec roads. In Bay-Quimo, Quebec, Alcoa put a $1 billion smelter upgrade on pause, but extended hydroelectric contracts through 2040. That's no coincidence. Let's be honest, aluminum isn't flashy. It doesn't trend. But it runs modern life. When Alcoa moves, entire U.S. industries feel it. Automakers. Electronics companies. Beverage brands. Construction firms. They all rely on Alcoa's output. If that aluminum starts coming from Canada, the shockwaves hit fast. They already are. Smelter towns across the U.S. are seeing layoffs. Miners are waiting for shipments that never come. Truckers are being told their routes are cancelled, not due to a lack of demand, but because the supply now comes from Quebec. Alcoa hasn't been secretive. The truth is buried in investor calls and quarterly reports that no average American reads. In Q1 2025, they admitted to a $20 million tariff hit. By Q2, they expect a $90 million blow. That's not a scratch. That's a gut punch. Alcoa has already stated, they don't plan to restart idled U.S. smelters anytime soon. Translation? It's still cheaper to operate abroad, even with the added cost of shipping the aluminum back into the U.S. And let's not forget, Quebec offers something the U.S. simply can't match: massive hydroelectric power deals. We're talking 2,100 megawatts locked in through 2040. That's enough energy to power a small country. Now, it's being used to fuel Alcoa's aluminum empire. So what does that mean? Every ton of aluminum made in Canada is one less job in Kentucky. One less shift in Texas. One less diner staying open after 8 p.m. It's a slow-motion collapse. Quiet enough that no one panics. Fast enough that one day, you look around and realize, it's all gone. And don't think this is temporary. You don't invest billions, sign 15-year energy deals, and pause U.S. operations unless you're fully committed. Alcoa's future? It's being forged in Canadian foundries, not American ones. So next time you open a soda, touch your car's hood, or admire a downtown skyscraper, ask yourself, is that American shine? Or imported glow? Because Alcoa isn't waiting around. They've already left. Number 3. Campbell's Soup listings have been quietly appearing in cities like Toronto and London, Ontario. It's not happening overnight, but the trend is clear, and it's not heading south. And no, this isn't just a decision about canned soup. This move goes much deeper. That familiar red and white can in your kitchen? It's the final product of a vast ecosystem, one that stretches far beyond the soup itself. Think of the label printer in Ohio, the carrot farmer in Michigan, and the trucker hauling pallets across Pennsylvania. When Campbell's shifts even part of its operations out of the US, it sends shockwaves through entire towns that depend on those jobs. Let's talk numbers. In 2025, Campbell's was forced to lower its earnings forecast, cutting its growth outlook from 11% down to just 6 to 8%. The reason? Soaring costs. Tariffs, rising aluminum prices, and increased energy expenses hit the company hard. Their own quarterly report openly warned of a $90 million impact in Q2 alone, just from material costs like aluminum and steel. That's not a minor fluctuation. That's a full-blown corporate headache. Meanwhile, Canada is starting to look more and more attractive: affordable hydroelectric power, business-friendly regulations, and no sudden tariff hikes. So it makes perfect sense that Campbell's would begin expanding operations across the border. Ports in Montreal are booming. In contrast, US facilities are either shrinking or sitting idle. For example, aluminum imports in Houston have dropped significantly, while Canada's output is steadily increasing. But this goes beyond soup. When packaging becomes too expensive, especially for essential goods, the consequences multiply. If Campbell's can't profitably sell a can of soup without pricing it out of reach for average families, where does it end? This isn't about seasonal price spikes anymore. We're facing long-term inflation on basic necessities. And don't expect public declarations. No company wants the headline, "Campbell's Soup abandons America." So instead, the transition is happening gradually. A few fewer cans made in the US. Here. A few more contracts signed in Canada there. Jobs, money, and industry are slowly being siphoned off, without any major announcement. So, the next time you heat up a bowl of chicken noodle soup and notice, "Made in Canada," on the label, don't just shrug it off as trivia. That label is a signal, one that a major American brand is quietly slipping out the back door, while the rest of us still think it's in the kitchen. Number 2. Tesla. The company that once shouted its allegiance to American innovation, is now quietly whispering in French and drawing blueprints in Ontario. This isn't just a car company moving operations. It's a tech revolution migrating across borders. And hardly anyone is paying attention. This isn't a PR stunt or a new Elon tweet. It's a calculated, data-driven shift. In 2025, Tesla took a hard look at the US and saw trouble. The power grid is unreliable. Electricity bills are soaring. And regulatory hurdles are turning billion-dollar factories into red tape nightmares. Rather than complaining, Tesla made a strategic pivot. Enter Ontario and Quebec. These provinces offer clean, affordable hydroelectric power. Check. Predictable electricity rates. Check. Fast-tracked approvals for industrial development. Access to key battery materials like lithium, graphite, and rare earth elements? Triple check. That's the golden formula. While American projects remain stuck in endless environmental reviews, Tesla's Canadian operations are moving from planning to production with near-surgical precision. Let's look at the facilities. The robotics factory in Markham, Ontario, isn't just a quirky Canadian branch. It's becoming the heart of Tesla's automation efforts. Hundreds of job listings are popping up for software engineers, robotics experts, and control system specialists. And not a single tweet from Elon about it. Before you know it, the machines building Teslas won't be coming from Texas. They'll be assembled just outside Toronto. Meanwhile, in Quebec, Tesla is taking things even further. They're developing a full-stack production ecosystem, from mining lithium to crafting high-efficiency battery cells. And they're not alone. Canada has committed over $52.5 billion in federal and provincial incentives to support battery manufacturing. That's practically an open invitation to Tesla to build a northern empire. So why wouldn't they accept? Back in the US, it's a very different picture. Power outages, energy instability, and regulatory delays are making large-scale innovation nearly impossible. You can't build the future when you can't even keep the lights on. Tesla may not publicly admit it, but their US Gigafactory timelines have been quietly stretched, paused, or altogether abandoned. Tesla fans might argue that this is just global expansion, not a retreat. But here's the reality. When Tesla moves, its entire ecosystem follows. That includes AI partners, chip manufacturers, charging infrastructure companies, and solar subsidiaries. It's all interconnected. So when Tesla plants roots in Canada, the ripple effect is enormous. And here's the twist. Even after Canadian rebates were frozen and retaliatory tariffs caused Tesla deliveries in Quebec to drop 87% in 2025, the company is still pouring investment into the region. That's not chasing sales. That's planting long-term roots. While the US debates EV subsidies and unions, Canada simply hands Tesla a shovel and says, start building. Less talk, more action. So what does all of this mean? It means the company that once defined American tech leadership is now building its future outside of the US, not with dramatic headlines, but silently, piece by piece, robot by robot. That Cybertruck you've been waiting for? It might come with a little more Canadian frost than expected. That advanced AI-powered battery system? The brains behind it could be sipping coffee from Tim Hortons on their lunch break. Tesla isn't abandoning America. They're just hedging their bets, with precision, pragmatism, and Canadian contracts. And if they're doing it this quietly? That's exactly why it should worry us. Because the future isn't just being built, it's being relocated. Number 1. Ford, the company that once put the world on wheels, is now driving in a new direction. And spoiler alert, it's not toward Detroit. This is the brand that built its legacy on blue-collar grit. The name that's practically tattooed on American manufacturing pride. And yet, in 2024, Ford invested $2.3 billion, not in Michigan, Ohio, or even Texas, but in Oakville, Ontario. Why? To ramp up production of its best-selling F-Series Super Duty trucks, some of Ford's most profitable vehicles. Now, they're being assembled in Canada's backyard. While the US argued about gas versus electric, Ford was redrawing the map of American manufacturing. It gets even more interesting. Originally, Oakville was intended to go all-electric, producing EV SUVs. But when battery prices skyrocketed and EV enthusiasm cooled, Ford hit pause. Full EV production is now delayed until 2027. Instead, they're doubling down on traditional gas-powered trucks. Why? Because Canada can build them faster, cheaper, and with fewer bureaucratic headaches. And Ontario? It runs on 90% clean hydroelectric power. Let's be clear. Ford isn't turning its back on America, it's adapting. US plants are overloaded. Energy prices are out of control. Labor negotiations feel more like hostage situations than business deals. Meanwhile, Canada is offering incentives worth hundreds of millions of dollars, complete with tax breaks, land deals, and access to clean power. Ontario essentially said, need land, electricity, and subsidies? And Ford said, say no more. The result? 1,800 new Canadian jobs. Supply chains shifting north. And small American towns left watching opportunity slip away. This is how industrial migration happens, not through massive factory shutdowns, but through subtle, strategic moves. So next time you see an F-150 roaring past on the highway, take a second look at where it was built. Because that badge of American toughness? It might now come with a Canadian accent. The bigger picture, so there you have it. 6 American giants that are quietly shifting their empires across the northern border. This isn't about fear. It's about awareness. The logos might still scream red, white, and blue, but the factories? They're running on Canadian power grids. If the backbone of American industry is starting to pack its bags, what comes next? Stick with us. We're only getting started. Hit that subscribe button, like the video, and share it with someone who still thinks, made in the USA, means what it used to. Drop your thoughts in the comments, we're listening.